Welcome to Charter Local Edition Northwest. Today we're in our Kennewick studio and we're interviewing our government leaders about the things they're working on to serve you. My guest today is Republican Representative Brad Klippert. Thank you for joining us. We appreciate you being here. Recently you were talking with the city of Kennewick about what's going on with whether or not they can have marijuana operations.
Right, and recently I testified before the Kennewick City Council because they were considering whether to put a moratorium or a ban on outside grow of marijuana because there's been a whole lot of their citizens who have complained about the smell of marijuana especially. And recently in the state legislature we passed legislation, and it was signed by the governor, that says you cannot have a marijuana grow in Washington State that is visible by your neighbors or that they can smell. And so with the complaints coming from many citizens, in fact, the Kennewick City Council said there will no longer be outside marijuana grows in the city of Kennewick because of all those complaints, especially with the smell of marijuana. And so, I'm kind of thankful for the fact that the city of Kennewick has made that move because, recently I found out from the Washington Traffic Safety Commission that a vehicle involved DUI crashes that involve fatalities. The increase of those who test positive for marijuana in those crashes has increased by 48% between the years of 2013 and 2014. So since marijuana has been legalized, DUI fatality crashes with marijuana positive testing of those involved in those crashes has increased by 48%. And the Liquor Control Board told me that now they take statistics from the Seattle School Board and the Seattle School District, and they told me that of those kids found in possession of marijuana in Seattle School District, 38% of them said they got that marijuana from someone associated with a medical marijuana operation. Not recreational, but a medical marijuana operation that's getting into the hands of our kids.
Yes, because that's not the intent.
Exactly. So I'm really glad the city of Kennewick has taken the steps that they have.
And you're also concerned about mental health in our state.
Mental health. I recently toured the Western State Hospital in Lakewood, Washington. And they were telling me how there's a dramatic increase for need for mental health beds in Washington State, and we don't have enough of them to meet the need. And I asked them, why the dramatic increase? And going back to the legalization of marijuana, multiple mental health workers cited to me, well, marijuana is legal now. When I asked others, is it possible that could be the reason why we have such a dramatic increase in a decrease of the mental health of our citizens in Washington State? And not one person refuted that possibility. So I'm really concerned and I'm really thankful that our local city councils taking steps in the direction to protect our citizens.
Well, I have heard several state lawmakers, not only from the central Washington area, talk about how the legislative session this next year was going to need to focus on mental health and how we're going to take care of this growing population. Wherever that population is coming from, nobody's arguing that we just have to do more in our state because there's a growing number of citizens that need that kind of help.
So recently, some mental health professionals that I was speaking with told me that they will come across people who are a danger to themselves or others. And because of the fact that the legislature has not put enough money into the mental health budget to provide beds, mental health beds for these people, sometimes they just have to walk away or let these people go who are a danger to themselves or others, which is very concerning to me because right now there's such a stressor on providing funds for our children's basic education, K through 12.
Right.
But we've heard the tragic stories of when someone is a danger to others, takes that danger into the schools. So what is truly the most important thing? That's why it's so important to me to protect our citizens. Public safety has to be a part of our budget. So we've got to start providing better for the mental health needs, to provide those beds for those people who are a danger to themselves and especially to others so that we can protect our children and protect our citizens.
Well, and it also becomes just a huge challenge for law enforcement too, because I think law enforcement is expecting a standard criminal, and dealing with somebody who's mentally ill is a different animal, and that's more challenging too.
Absolutely.
And lastly, you are passionate about our minimum wage in this state, and you feel that that's having some negative repercussions on businesses.
Well, there's a move afoot to say that the minimum wage all across Washington State would have to be $15 an hour. So, I'm concerned about that. Recently, I went to, as a law enforcement officer, which I do when I'm not in the legislature, I went to a call at a fruit processing plant in a local community. And when I went there, during the day, midweek, they were reporting a theft. And I talked to the security man, and there was no one there. The place was empty. And so I asked him, where is everybody? And his response to me was, you remember that minimum wage hike that we had recently? And I said, yeah, I remember that. He said, well, we used to have the highest quality, some of the highest quality apples in the world. And buyers would come from all over the world to purchase apples from us because of the super high quality we had. Well, with the rise in minimum wage, the producers couldn't afford to do the production they used to do to produce the quality of the apples they used to. So the quality of our apples went down. Those buyers that came from all over the world to buy from us quit coming. And so those 35 workers who used to have the highest minimum wage in the nation now don't have a job. And I heard of a restaurant in Seattle they have voluntarily raised the minimum wage for their servers to $15 an hour. But to meet the need now to keep the business afloat, they increased the price of their meals by 21%. And they said to their consumers who come to them that you no longer have to tip our employees. So I did the math on that. So now if you go from $9-something an hour to $15 an hour, that's $6 an hour. Well, if you're a waitress, you can make much more than that in an hour in tips, especially at a fine restaurant. So now I asked myself, who wins in that model? Is it the consumer? Well, the price of their meal has now gone up by 21%. Is it the worker who's now had a raise in their per hour rate from $9 to $15 an hour, a total of $6 an hour? Well, no, because they can make more than that in tips. Is it the restaurant owner? Well, probably not, because I don't know about you, but if my favorite restaurant increases their rates by 21%, I'm probably going to find someplace else to eat. So who wins in this model? So it's very concerning to me, especially when you take that and you spread that across the state of Washington. What's that going to do to the cost of living or inflation rate in Washington State if everything has to increase by 21% like that restaurant owner did?
It's really a dilemma, because it does need to be mandated by the state, but varying communities have varying needs. I understand that you need a high minimum wage to survive in the city of Seattle. It's very expensive. But then also, how about our kids? It's very tough to employ young people for these high rates. These are monies that, college kids used to make. So.
And who doesn't want the people who work in Washington State to make the highest wage possible?
Right.
You and I both do. We want them to make as high a wage as they possibly can. But the business model that's worked in the United States for centuries now is, as you increase your skills, as you increase your education, as you work harder and become the best qualified person for that job, you're going to get the higher paying jobs. That's the incentive. If you want to make more money, get a better education, improve your skills, work harder, that's what's made America great, not this that everyone has a right to this certain higher wage. When you haven't done anything to improve your job skills, your education, or anything else, it's just mandated. So I think it kind of goes against what's really made America great, and I'm kind of concerned about that, and hope that we'll just really slow down and look at this before we have a huge increase in minimum wage just like that.
Well, Brett, thank you for coming and sharing your views with us, and thank you for working for us in the legislature. We wish you good luck with the upcoming session.
Thank
and
you
we
very
thank
much.
you for watching. I'm Dana Cowley. This is Charter Local Edition Northwest.